there's an article about Goodall from a magazine that was out of San Angelo, but it came out after a few years after he had passed, and kind of talks about how he was involved in the Texas Sheep and Goat Association, and he was in a meeting in Fort Worth, and I remember when my grandpa told me that when they bought their first Model A was in 1928, and that Goodall never liked to drive it because it was so unfamiliar to him that being on a horse was his preferred way of transportation.
You imagine going
And
from
that
a
guy,
horse of loping to a vehicle, and I mean that's just been so.
and that guy
foreign.
didn't pass away till I think 86 or 85. So it wasn't that long ago when things really started changing. And that same Model A, that's all my cousins. That's kind of like a tradition that when you get married, you drive away in the Model A.
That's pretty neat.
And Audrey and I got to drive away in it for our wedding, and my older brother Cash, and all of our cousins who've gotten married drove away in it. And so
If I ever find a broad,
I hope you do, brother. I'll be there.
yeah, if we can keep it running, we might have to push it. But yeah, it's completely different now. Trying to keep that Western way of life combined with making a living is a battle that I feel like has been going on for generations.
Like Monty Walsh said, if y'all ever watch that movie, Tom Selleck, progress is a funny word.
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
if you think about it, and I think you highlighted it really well, when COVID hit, we're going to see COVID in history books
Oh, yeah.
because it
It was like the
reshaped-
Spanish flu.
It rechanged the whole society and the way they think. You had people that never ever thought about leaving where they're at. Joe Rogan's one of them. He's like, "Oh, I love California. I love the way this is," and then they're like, that mentality of, "I can't walk down the street. I can't go get groceries. I can't get my everyday goods, and I'm in a concrete jungle and I can't produce them." Yeah, that's a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's always interesting to me when somebody from the city that's never been out in the country comes out to San Angelo or Mason or Junction or London or wherever we're at, and they're like, "So where's the nearest hospital?" I'm like, "You're an hour and a half away from any healthcare that's really going to save your life." And a couple years ago, before our grandfather died, he said, when he was a kid on Whiskey Road, one of the neighbor's kids got a appendix ruptured. If you didn't realize it within 15 minutes of the appendix rupturing, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Well, Harrison, to be fair, your appendix ruptured, and you lasted longer than 15 minutes.
Yeah, but I had an automobile.
I've never seen somebody that didn't enjoy, but here's the thing. My granddad said the law book was about that thick when he was a young man. I'd hate to see what the state legislator has now, how thick it is. I'm sure it's, but it just goes to show, like, we get away from morals and things, and people make laws so that you can't, instead of, we're kind of raised up the same way. Right's right, wrong's wrong. You don't intertwine, you don't cheat, you do it right, put your head down, you'll receive the reward of the benefits. And unfortunately, I mean, that's kind of what in my mind, the people that built everything, we're at the point right now in the world where we're just as important as they are, because it's either we make this work, we're looking at a deficit, our country, and we're looking at computers, and it's either going to be we can depend on man, or computers are going to have to do everything. In my point of view.
Well, if it ever collapses, if the computers ever collapse, we're screwed, because people don't know how to go work on an engine without using ChatGPT. People don't know. Right now, they're implementing all this technology in our softwares for text to go learn. We go in an old school dealership. When I say old school, old John Deere, old New Holland, Ford, whatever. There was literally a room built in the store as a library. When's the last time you've been in a library since you were in high school?
Actually, a couple times there.
Gosh, damn, you proved me wrong right off the bat.
So I really enjoy giving back to Sonora, and I've gone and talked to the librarian. They wanted me to bring, I haven't done this yet, but they want to bring some animals so that the young kids in the community can pet them and stuff. And then, I mean, if you have to do any business in town and you don't have a printer, you can go to the library for 25 cents. You can use a computer and print off whatever you need. That's the only reason I've used my library.
But nobody just goes up there to go, oh, what's the law? Nobody goes up there and goes, oh, I don't know how to do this.
Well,
let's read
those
the book.
are some benefits to technology, though, that you can ask ChatGPT, like what's any kind of statistic you can think of, because it's all on the web, it's all tied to it. But I think it's more or less we're losing the ability to, like, the little tricks that your granddad knew, right? Or our great grandpa, our granddad knew that. There was an easy, I say easier, but there were solutions to things that I won't probably ever know because it was all in his brain, and that was only learned through experience that he had, right? When you talk about agriculture, why is agriculture so important? Well, there's 2% of the whole world is involved in agriculture production, and the rest of the world consumes it, right? So there's a huge percentage of the population out there that has no idea how to grow food, how to raise food, and those are some good things about colleges, though, because you can go get back in the day they called it animal husbandry. You can go get an animal science degree. You can get a meat science degree. You can get an agronomy or a horticulture degree.
Natural resource management.
Yeah, come on. And you're a Sol Ross alum?
Graduate, yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Natural resource management, minor in ag business. Loved every minute of it. I never had a professor, man or woman, that didn't cheer for me and help me out achieve my goals.
Would you say that Sol Ross is probably the most cowboy school in Texas?
They really enjoy helping out, in my opinion, whether it's agriculture. They have a great program for exotics or anything with Western way of life. They'll help get you where you need to be. And if they can't, they can port you in the right direction. Whereas if you need to go and specialize, and they really help outsource those people. Most of those people go on to teach either at Sol Ross or at junior colleges or other colleges. I mean, they're top notch for sure, I'd say.
I always enjoyed that college rodeo they had.
Yes, sir. It's a blast.
That was one of my favorite ones.
CJ's done a great job with it, and it's only getting bigger. But to touch down on your point, most of the time, people that don't know the laws now, they wind up getting our kind of people. We're like, yep, I could use a free vacation. throw me in the jail.
We're got to get close to wrapping up here, but what is, one highlight of your career as a rodeo cowboy that you'd like to share?
I got so many of them I couldn't. Honestly, my point of view, I've done a lot of great things, and accolades are great, but I'm still not where I want to be, and I'm always trying to pursue that. I couldn't do it without my sponsors. You guys really helped me when I had my arena. That's what I pulled the blue, baby.
Yeah,
and then,
you wore the blue today. I see that.
Yeah, and then Grogan's and Capital Hatters. But man, I tell you what, I had a lot of ups and downs, and I just couldn't pinpoint one time because they're all great.
Well, tell one of them.
Well, winning the WCRA was a big highlight. I'd never won a check that big at one rodeo. And Matt Reeves helped me win that. We was bared down trying to win the year end, and I dang near killed us once. We found the back of the bucking chutes. He's tough enough to stay in there so I could throw the steer down, and we come back, and he's like, let's be professional here and really get a start. And I wound up winning second there at the finals, and then it helped me win the year in. But that's probably one of the proudest things I'm proud of. I place at all kinds of different rodeos, but the first part of my career, I was like, well, wait till the next one. You think that's great, wait till the next one. And now I'm like, whenever you succeed, you really ought to enjoy it and not take it for granted.
Mm-hmm.
And just keep working hard, but
Mm-hmm.
pat yourself on because you're not as important as you think you are, no matter what happens in life.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's sound advice.
Yes,
Remember
sir.
that strong.
Okay.
What's the best piece of advice you've gotten throughout the years for rodeo and ranching?
Well, the greatest thing I could say, Matt Reeves is really good at this. He's like, if you can't tell me what happened through the entire run, then you don't know enough and you haven't ran enough and you're not where you need to be. That's when you need to worry. So the thing I try to tell kids nowadays, watch the film, realize what you're doing. Don't look at me and lie and say, well, I think this is what happened. Instead of running 200, run your 10 and have a plan and understand what's going on those 10. Build your confidence. Be done with it. Don't sit there until you create a bad habit.
Mm-hmm.
And like I've had coaches and stuff where, mental coaches, and the number one thing is most people work so hard at something, they form a bad habit or they quit on that. Well, then that carries over. Let's not ever, I would say, less runs, more thought, 100%. When you know what you're going to do, and I teach this in my schools. I do some shoot dogging schools. And then the cool thing will be whenever those kids get to come to our jackpot, we have the largest bulldogging jackpot going right now. We've done 2 years and paid out almost $350,000.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much I love my sport. And rodeo. And I really like to thank my wife. I really went from my granddad's partner, and then he passed, to my wife's partner. And I think she's the lady that saved me and is helping me get to where I need to be every day. I couldn't do it without her. I joke around a lot. I'm really hard on my wife. She puts up with a lot of bullshit that comes out of my mouth, as we all know. But, she is my bread and butter, and I couldn't do life without her. And I think the best thing that anybody can do is have a great partner to back them in life, no matter what they're doing.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Amen to that.
So, where can you find to enter in on one? Social media, website, phone number
What's that?
to enter in on your bulldogging classes?
We do Facebook or call. Everything's Facebook now. A man can get caught up in social media and think yourself to death.
Well, and it's just Sam Powers on Facebook.
Sam Powers, yes, sir.
Awesome. Well, Sambo, Harris and I appreciate you coming on, hanging out with us, and giving us some inspiration and a lot of good quotes. Wish you great success going on.
Thank you, brother. Till next time, fellas. Keep riding for the brand.
Bueno,
Grab your
bueno.
checks.